Betsy.
I'm Joe.
Stating the obvious. I don't know how many of you are familiar with our blog. If you're new readers, you may only know the Project Newlywed side of the blog, but in reality, I've been blogging, both of us, for the past almost 4 years. So in preparation for this presentation, I looked back through our entire blog and kind of divided it up into 4 phases that we've gone through. So that's how I'm going to kind of approach this presentation, is to share where we started and how we got to where we are now. So I'm going to start just kind of with a brief history of our relationship. We met in high school back in 2002. Joe used to have crazy curly hair. I was a senior, he was a sophomore. We actually grew up less than 2 blocks apart though, but it wasn't until I was 17 and Joe was 15 that we really met for the first time, and we made it official in the fall of 2002. That spring I graduated high school and went to college. I went down to George Mason in Virginia, so we started a long distance thing.
We lived in upstate New York.
Yeah, sorry. So. Elmira, New York is our hometown. At this point, neither of us had ever been to Pittsburgh or knew anything about the city. And when it came time for Joe to apply to college, I really wanted him to go somewhere either in Northern Virginia or DC or Maryland. And
but really just didn't work out, and for whatever reason, ended up coming to Pittsburgh, and kind of been here ever since.
Yeah, well, I was actually pretty bitter when he went to the University of Pittsburgh because I knew nothing about the city. It was kind of, it robbed me of my boyfriend. I was going to have to live away from him for another year or 2 while I was still in college. But the summer after his freshman year, I decided to move to Pittsburgh for the summer to kind of start my roots, because I planned to move here permanently after graduation, regardless of whether I liked it or not, because he was here. So the summer of 2006, I lived here with Joe. We lived in Shadyside. I interned at the Warhol Museum and worked at the Center for the Arts as a camp counselor. I was a photography major in school, so I was kind of trying to infiltrate the arts world here in Pittsburgh. So we had a great summer. This was Memorial Day. We had a picnic at Point State Park and went to our very first Pirates game. So this picture is kind of really sentimental for me because, as much as I wanted to resist Pittsburgh, as soon as I came here, I just felt
grows on you.
Yes. So at the end of the summer, unfortunately, I had to move back to college, and we spent 1 more semester apart. I graduated a semester early in December 2006. I was back here for good, and I've been here ever since. So Joe was, halfway through his sophomore year. I was a fresh college grad. I was unemployed.
It was the middle of winter.
Yeah. The weather wasn't as bad as Snowmageddon. It was pretty bad. We didn't have a car or anything, and one of my friends in school had a blog, and I didn't even really know what a blog was, but she was a fellow photography major, and her blog was really focused on her relationship with her boyfriend, so I thought, maybe I'll copy her and do sort of the same thing here. And we were also pretty far from home, and we didn't know anybody here in the city. So I thought it'd be a good way to share our life with our family and friends and also kind of motivate myself to stay with photography. This is actually our very first blog post ever, which kind of looks nothing like what our blog posts look like now.
Really kind of simple, just a few lines and 1 picture, obviously. And we've come a long way since then, but starting out and just not really knowing anything about blogging, not knowing anything about what we should be putting up. This is just, I guess, what we started out with.
And Joe, I should say now, is very private about the internet. He's never been on Facebook. He doesn't understand Twitter. He doesn't do any of that stuff. So
it's been somewhat of an adjustment, but
I don't think he really
all worked out.
Knew what he was getting himself into. But he kind of just let me run with it, and this starts phase 1. So at this point, really, nobody was reading our blog except for our family and our friends. And we weren't really doing things for the sake of blogging. I would post, maybe a couple times a month, sometimes just once a month. And we were still pretty new to the city. So at these photos, if we were just looking at the Carnegie Museums or something, we would take pictures and put them on the blog and share them because there were so many new things for us to do here. But again, I really had no posting style, and it was very kind of unorganized, scattered.
And for me at this point, I was learning how to be the model for all the pictures. Because, now I'm so used to everyday cameras in my face, but, at the beginning, I don't know, you can kind of tell my body language, I'm like, do I really have to be, doing this right now? But yeah, so that was kind of a learning process for me, kind of, getting comfortable behind the camera, or in front of the camera.
Yeah. And at this point, I was still unemployed. It took me 3 months when I moved here to get a job. And looking back, I didn't really embrace the whole blogging thing as a positive hobby. It was more kind of like, well, I got myself into this, I might as well do it once in a while and keep up with it. But I really didn't use it as much of a creative outlet to kind of lift my spirits as I should have, because during this time, I kind of, I let myself go, like my health, and things were kind of spiraling downwards, which will be covered in a later phase of the blog. But again, we were kind of just posting personal things, and looking back, it's kind of funny because where we're doing Project Newlyweds now, we were kind of doing this stuff way back when. I mean, this picture here, we were making a gigantic gingerbread mansion. Joe's making a roof out of frosted mini wheats. We've always been doing these silly craft projects, forever. So, and anytime these are my sisters that came to visit, we went to the Science Center.
Went to that submarine that's sitting out there.
Yeah, it's just kind of was a way to share like a public photo album. And this was back when Facebook was still kind of basic, and yeah. So you can see, I put a picture of myself getting a little heavier during this time. And again, I was pretty scattered with my blogging. I put up a snapshot of this post. I said, okay, here's my new goal, to post a picture each day, or maybe 3 a week. I'll let you, I know you all love our updates, so I'll try to keep it fresh, starting Monday.
So that gives you any idea about how, random and sporadic it was at the beginning, and how we'd only post once in a while, and when we would post, it'd only be a few pictures, here and there. And now, our blog is posting tons of pictures all the time. So you just see how starting out, we just really kind of bare bones, not really so involved.
Yeah. And it was kind of safe at this point because we knew nobody was reading. There's probably the most embarrassing photos of, Joe being goofy or whatever can be found back in this time because, he had no idea what this would eventually blossom into. So yeah, also phase 1, these are really dark, but this is our kitten Sunny when we got him. And this phase also moved into our first full summer in Pittsburgh, and we just really, were embracing a lot of the city, fit the Pirates.
Betsy had gotten a job at this point, so we were, going out and having a little bit more fun, we weren't stuck in the house, wintertime kind of stuff, so it's when we really started, having a good time in the city, and kind of, really getting out there.
Which moved into phase 2, which I said started in July 2007. I kind of hit my stride. We were really happy. We were starting to really settle into the city. I was putting up more pictures, and it was beginning the phase where I was getting inspired to do things for the sake of creating blog content. Where in the beginning it was like, well, if I have something, I'll put it up. If not, I don't really care. But this time, I started to bring my camera everywhere we went, and it just became kind of a natural thing.
I mean, you can see I'm starting to just say, whatever. Just take a picture.
That was at the Vintage Grand Prix, the zoo. Joe worked at UPMC one summer, so I started to do things like take your blog to work day. I just was starting to search for things to put on the blog. But things were still pretty lighthearted. It was pretty personal still, and for whatever reason, one of the main reasons I started the blog was to keep up with my photography, but in the beginning, I didn't really focus on doing a good job with my photography. At this point, I really started to kind of try to be a little more artistic and, have a more aesthetic feel to our blog, which I feel I've definitely accomplished at this point, but at that point, I was still kind of figuring it all out. We would get, this is from one of our vacations, we started to get even more personal, if we're going on vacation, it's going to be on the blog. We gotta take pictures of everything to share it. And I think at this point, some people started to read, but we still weren't really promoting it.
Still mostly friends and family.
Yeah. This was also the beginning of a time when I started doing what I call teaser posts. We started going to pottery class, and one night I would go and I would post all the things we threw on the wheel, and then I'd say, stay tuned and see what it looks like when it gets glazed, and kind of started that ball rolling of bringing people back to the blog for a certain reason, because we didn't really have that kind of ongoing content. I mean, one day I could blog about Sonny and his toys, and that was the whole post. Or, you know, Joe and I played a game of Scrabble, and I posted some pictures of that. But, you know, people could kind of come and expect fun, lighthearted, you know, content. And
projects like the pottery project just kind of gave a little bit more continuity to our blogging style. You know, like Betsy was saying, we'd start out, Betsy would take a picture of me, making the actual pot, and then it has to sit for a while. So she'd put a picture up like this, and then so the next week it would be the firing process, which is when it gets cooked, the pot gets cooked, and then the next week it would be the glazing process. So it's just it's a good way for people to come back and kind of expect something on a daily, weekly, whatever basis.
Yeah, and we started getting emails from people, especially because Sonny was on the blog so much. People would ask us a lot of questions about cats, and he was really, kind of the devil reincarnated in a cat.
Yeah. So, it doesn't look like it there.
But I think people started to connect more with our personality because I started writing more. Like with the back to the pottery, it didn't always work out, and I would kind of, write about our failures and things, and this is when the writing kind of started to pick up, because in the beginning I didn't really write very much. So there's some finished pottery, and just showing you the food has always been on the blog in some capacity, just because it's a real big passion of mine. And yours. But I also got kind of experimental with my posts. Like I did a lot of drawing, tasteful Perez Hilton type white drawing. I did for a while a thing called like daily thoughts, where at the end of every post, Joe and I would just kind of write a little sentence about what we thought. I did Sonny studies, where I collage pictures of Sonny. He's not up there anymore. There he is. But, so I just kind of tried a whole bunch of different things to see what would kind of maybe make my blog unique and kind of myself. But none of those things have really stuck. Yeah, I think there's one more page of, we just kind of got into a really casual, comfortable place with the blog. We were getting, really comfortable with the city. But at this point, I didn't really know any other Pittsburgh bloggers. It wasn't until actually the past year that I really connected with other Pittsburgh bloggers. We still kind of felt somewhat of, outsiders to the city because we didn't grow up here. We didn't really know anybody here. We got another cat during this time.
That was kind of tame Sonny's wildness. Yeah, we're still kind of going through, kind of exploring the city still, kind of getting a feel for it. We've been here for a few years at this point, and as Betsy said, getting more comfortable, just blogging about more personal things and more kind of everyday.
This phase also included, when I started blogging, I used a Mac program called iWeb. I don't know if anybody used it, but it was off the internet, and then you would kind of do your post and then put it on the internet. And our first blog name was like web.mac.com/Joe and Betsy 7 or something really ridiculous. Yeah. So at this point, I realized, this blog thing's kind of working out, so I might as well buy our domain name. So I bought joeandbetsy.com, I think August of 2008. And I just put up some pictures. This is another one where my sister visited, and Joe's aunt and cousin. It kind of became a really notorious thing within our families that we were these bloggers, and people, when they came to visit, they kind of expect to be on the blog. And
they want to make an appearance.
They thought it was kind of thrilling, oh, we're on the blog. But I don't even think they really knew that anybody was reading. And when I bought the domain name, that's when the stats kind of started to pick up. And I think that moves us into phase 3, which is what I call healthy living phase. So kind of during phase 2, I had started to read a lot of healthy living blogs. I saw a lot of women my age that had successfully lost a lot of weight through a very specific way of blogging. They blog about all their exercise, about everything that they ate. And I followed them, and I started to comment on their blogs, and they found mine, and I just kind of fell into this community, and it was a really positive thing for me because it did help me lose. I lost, about 30 pounds, but I just kind of got consumed by that because I saw how, successful their blogs were, and I started to move our blog into that direction.
So we really start focusing on, obviously, healthy food, fruits and veggies here. And then the other portion of the healthy living kind of phase was the free stuff that we get. I'll let Betsy handle that.
Well, it was actually a lot easier than I expected to get free things. I saw a lot of bloggers would get free samples, and I thought, I can take better pictures than they can. I can, offer something to these people. So I started emailing a bunch of companies and said, hey, if you want to send us some free stuff, I'll be happy to put pictures on the blog. And they did. We had a table this big in our dining room just covered in stuff.
Mounted up.
Like this.
Everything.
We had probably 3 times as many of these little chocolate things, and I just started giving them away on the blog. It was...
Yeah, not all healthy food obviously tastes very good, so a lot of it ended up, some of it ended up not getting eaten, but these were pretty good, so we ate those.
Yeah.
Our chocolate, so that was probably the least healthy thing we got.
Here is a diagram I made of how to make a green smoothie, which is a spinach-based drink. So Joe went through a lot of interesting things at this time. I kind of forced, tofu and tempeh and any weird health thing, and he, went with it.
Basically, whatever she puts out, counts on that.
Yeah.
I'm not picky.
And we got really into running. I started to blog about, how many miles we ran, and I got inspired to run some races. We ran the Run Around the Square, we ran the Great Race, and we planned to run a half marathon, which I'll get to a little later, why it didn't work out. But what I realized on all these phases is when we moved through each phase, we didn't exactly lose anything about our blog and what made us unique. We kind of compacted it all on top of each other. So even during the healthy living time, I'd still put up pictures of, just the cats or just something silly. And this time, I also became a featured publisher with the website Food Buzz. I don't know if any of you are familiar, but since I had kind of really moved into this food healthy realm, I saw that some other bloggers were getting paid to be a featured publisher through Food Buzz. So I applied and we got accepted, and that's when we started to get paid for the blog. And that kind of solidified the need and desire for food-based content because, I have to blog about food to keep this sponsorship.
That's part of the deal. And at this point, our readership has been going up a little bit, so that really enabled us to even be considered for something like Food Buzz.
Yeah,
and the healthy living phase really contributed to that with a lot of crossover hits from the other healthy living style websites.
Yeah, so little did I know, I was kind of going down the path of point of no return because the blog was moving upward and onward, everything was going well, we were getting lots of opportunities, but I was also sort of pigeonholing ourselves into this type of blog. Hang on, Joe. Just one more opportunity that I want to talk about is last summer? Yeah, 2009. We got contacted by a company called Brand About Town that was representing the Gap's new line of denim, and they were intrigued by us because I guess, the fact that we are a guy and a girl together on one blog is somewhat unique. So they threw us a party to kind of publicize and distribute Gap.
Well, they gave us the resources to throw ourselves a party.
Yeah, they gave us dozens of pairs of jeans for a party, and I don't know.
Gave them all away. I think we had 60 pairs of jeans or
Yeah.
something like that. And we just, had a fitting party and just had piles of jeans laying out, food, drinks, all that.
Yeah, it was kind of bizarre because everybody we invited was like, how did this happen?
That's
Is it your blog?
the kind of invitation you get every day.
Is it your blog?
You want a free pair of jeans. That's usually how it would start.
Yeah. Okay. But at this point, I was also blogging 2 or 3 times a day. I started. Oh, you moved on to the last one. Sorry.
I did.
I was posting 2 or 3 times a day. I was posting every single meal that we ate because I saw that people that posted multiple times a day, their blogs were really popular because people kept coming back to see what they're up to.
So that I really noticed at this point that it was starting to kind of consume most of Betsy's time. She'd be on the computer probably a lot more than she used to be. And it was all right because the hits were going up, and we enjoyed that part of it. But we're starting to lose kind of what our blog started out as, which was to kind of show our lives together as opposed to just what we eat, how much we're working out, those kind of things. Because that stuff, it's great, but it's not that much fun to blog about. Maybe
our biggest fans, who are our family, I think got really bored at this point. I really don't need to see everything you eat. I come here to see what you guys are up to. I kind of really started to lose myself in the blog, And it began to just dictate my personal life way too much. You know, if I didn't have a chance to blog about what I ate for lunch, I would put up this post like, I'm really sorry, I was just sick and I didn't post my lunch today. You know, it was just way too consuming. And last summer, before we moved into the phase we're in now, I attended a conference that was just for healthy living bloggers, and that was just kind of a wake-up call to me that I was like, I really don't belong in this niche, you know, bloggers. You know, I'm, you know, those girls that do it are great at what they do, and they really helped me when I needed to lose weight, but I kind of just wanted to remove myself from that side of blogging. So when I came back from that trip, we moved into phase 4, which was just about a year ago. And I just kind of reevaluated the blog, and I withdrew a bit, posting. We kind of came full circle because I started to post again really sporadically and scattered, and the content was kind of all over the place. Our wedding was coming up. Joe had just started law school. Our wedding was a couple months away. I was just kind of in limbo with the blog, and also with our relationship. I don't know if it's normal if any of you are married a couple months before to realize, like, we've been together 7 years, we're going to get married, what's going to happen after that? Like, you know, right now we're in this rut, every day is the same.
Yeah, especially because the healthy living thing, you know, every day was trying to basically do the same thing, you know. It just wasn't too exciting, so Betsy came up with an idea that has kind of changed the way that we look at life.
I was just really unhappy last fall. You know, of course I was excited to get married, but you know, I couldn't stop thinking about the day after the wedding when I went back to reality. You know, I'd go back to working 40 hours a week and Joe's in school. You know, how are we going to change things? How are we going to bring excitement to our life? And I really contemplated just dropping the blog completely because I felt like we had gone up and up and up, and I just wanted to stop. So yeah, I thought of Project Newlyweds around October of last year. I didn't tell Joe until about a month before the wedding, but I just thought, what if we decide to try something new every single day for the first year of our marriage? And that'll certainly give me something to blog about. So I proposed it to Joe about a month before the wedding, you know, as if he needed anything else on his plate. It was his first semester of law school. He was about to get married. He was certainly already overwhelmed. But he agreed.
Perfectly normal, right?
He agreed, and
I didn't really know what I was getting myself into, honestly.
I didn't.
He's like, yeah, sure, sounds great. It's a new thing every day. Sure, that's easy, right?
Are you talking about getting married or?
So yeah, I'm saying we're in phase 4 now because this is still phase 4 in the beginning. So can we move on to the next one? We'll move to Project Newlyweds now, which is kind of the biggest part of the blog.
It's a phase that we're in right now.
You know, all of a sudden I had really captivating daily content, and I had interesting things to do.
We're guaranteed something. Every day new on the blog because we have a new activity.
And the fact that we had an audience, you know, we did lose, I think, a good chunk of people reading the blog when I kind of went through that period of like, what's going on? But you know, this really kind of excited the people that had been with me and loyal with me from the beginning. So the fact that we had an audience kind of made the project, you know, even more, kind of pushed us to do a good job.
Yeah, when you expect that somebody's going to be, you know, reading and seeing the new thing that you're going to be doing, you know, I don't want to say, oh, don't want to kind of do something that's not that interesting or anything. You want something that people are going to want to come back and read again.
Yeah.
So it kind of, you know, reinforce that trying to really get out there and do something really fun and interesting.
Yeah, and I never could have foreseen in the beginning that the blog would be, you know, a pseudo marriage therapist. You know, our relationship has always been great. We just kind of, like a lot of people, fell into a really comfortable place, and you know, we could have just gone on living life, boring, normal, everyday life. But the blog was really kind of the catalyst for change. And you know, a lot of opportunities have come along since we've done Project Newlyweds. Something that I never blogged about that happened back this spring. I contacted MTV. They were casting Newlyweds for an episode of True Life, and I thought, well, we've certainly got an interesting angle here. So I sent them the email, showed them the blog, and within an hour they called us and said, we're really interested in you guys, and we actually have a cameraman in your area. So within a week, there was a guy at our house, and he filmed us for 7 hours one night. I came home from work at 4, he was there until 11. It was the night we tried to make tiramisu. And
Fried.
it was a complete disaster.
Well, if you try to make, homemade lady fingers, I don't know if anyone's tried it, but, it's egg white.
I don't know.
But basically we ended up with like omelet instead of lady fingers, so it was kind of a disaster. I ran out and got some, giant eagle lady fingers, and we came up with something, but, total failure.
Yeah, and it was just, we were so exhausted at the end of that experience. The last 4 hours we were just sitting on our couch with these lights in our living room. He was asking us
the interview,
and then any questions about our personal life. And when he left, we were kind of looking at each other like, do we really want to do this?
Yeah, we're thinking, even if he contacts us and says, we want to go forward with this project, we really want to do it, we're just like, oh, do we want to do it?
Yeah. And they didn't end up choosing us. They said that the project Newlyweds timeline didn't line up with theirs, whatever.
They had a 3-month shooting schedule, and we're going.
Who knows how true that was?
Year.
They didn't want it, and that's fine because just that night alone was a new experience for us. We was just kind of looking back. We've done so many things in the past 9 months that we never ever would have done if it wasn't for Project Newlyweds. I think the biggest thing, Joe's most favorite thing so far has been the road trip that we went on back in March.
This is us in New Orleans.
Yeah, it was during Snowmageddon actually. We're off work and school for 2 days. We were just stuck inside thinking about spring break. And normally in spring break we go down to Georgia to visit Joe's grandparents. But we actually saw them at New Year's this year. So we thought, what a great opportunity, there's Project Newlyweds, let's do something totally crazy. And I said, let's drive to New Orleans and back. And so I spent, the Snowmageddon days meticulously planning out every single mile of that trip. And I never really thought we'd actually do it, but we did. And I created all these little things on the blog that's like, follow that Sonata. And I had people, kind of tracking our trip. And that March of this past year was the highest hit month we've ever had on the blog. And I think it's really because of the road trip.
And not just in terms of hits, was it a good experience? I mean, it was probably the height of the Newlyweds idea, because it's just something that there's no way I probably would have gotten into this and done a road trip if it was just. It was fun and it worked out, but I don't know if I didn't have Project Newlyweds pushing us towards there, if we would have gone through with it. So, just having that there, having wanting to get some interesting content out there for people to read. It really worked out. Like Betsy said, it's been it was my favorite activity by far, and I want to do it again.
And we also have kind of come full circle, and we've kind of lost a bit of shame and done some really embarrassing things to the project. I know, on the past page it showed us painting those paper mache, that paper mache heart. Maybe, I'm sure Joe's been pretty embarrassed. His friends have razzed the heck out of him for a lot of the photos of this project, but we made a commitment to each other and to the blog, kind of no limit to what we're going to do.
I don't know if I would have gotten in that thing if it wasn't for the project.
Yeah, it's just been a lot of, we've learned so much about each other, and we've gotten out of our comfort zones. And
it's been a good way to get back to the roots of our blog, which was kind of a Pittsburgh-centric approach. For a time there, we were like, we've seen everything we've gotten to see. Everything's out there, we've already seen all. You get to that point when you live in a place for, a few years. Obviously, we haven't seen everything. We figured that out through the project. We just need to look a little harder, and it's been a great, reconnection for us to the city, and something that's really worked out well for us.
Yeah, and in the past year, I've connected with so many real people in Pittsburgh. I've actually, when I first started Twitter, I actually started it because of the Gap thing. That woman kind of convinced me, you should really be on Twitter. And so for the first year of Twitter, I didn't really know what it was, and I kind of shied away from meeting real people in Pittsburgh because I always had this kind of comfort level on the blog where, nobody here really knows us, and that I like it that way. But this year, we've been stopped on the street. People will send me an email and say, were you at this restaurant last night? I saw you across the room, but I was just kind of nervous to say something. And that just kind of got really bizarre, but it's been really cool too because, at this point we've been in Pittsburgh for 5 years, and we didn't know anybody here when we moved here, and now I feel like we're kind of part of this great online community that's transcending into real life, which has been really fun. And yeah, these are just a couple more pictures. I was blonde at the beginning of the year. I changed my hair color. We moved to a new neighborhood. We just got a puppy 2 weeks ago. the blog has been the catalyst for huge changes in our life, which I never could have foreseen at the beginning. But just one more point. Before the summer started, I was blogging every activity we did every single day, and then I kind of got to a point where I was going back through my cycle of inconsistency, and I wanted to kind of back off. My long-term goal for Project Newlyweds, however it was going to turn out, was to write a book about our whole experience, which we certainly have enough stories for. But I kind of decided that I would kind of change the way I was blogging and not post every single activity. So if you've been reading recently, you'll see I don't do, all right, day 121 we did this, 121 we did that. I kind of blog what I want to blog about now, kind of the highlights of our week, but we are still doing it every day. And that just kind of goes back to the way I'm wishy-washy with blogging. Because in the end, when you're a blogger, you are your own boss, and you shouldn't feel compelled to blog any more than you have to. That's the last slide. So I think if we could offer anything to, if you're bloggers or if you're thinking of becoming a blog, just do it and let it grow and change with you. Don't pigeonhole yourself so much. Although people that have really specific blogs are great. I don't want to.
That's great too.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a great phase for us, and but we moved out of that. And blogs can just change and shift with your life, and I think sometimes it's the blog reflecting our life, and sometimes it's shaping our life. So it's just been interesting to see this interaction between our life on the internet and our real life.
I think that's it. Thank you all very much for coming and listening.
So start with questions.
Yeah, if there's any questions.
I've got a question from Tara. She's in the chat room.
Oh.
She wants to know what post sticks out for you. In other words, what's the most meaningful to each one of you?
Well, I'll answer first because Joe's never actually written a post, so I don't know what he's going to say.
That should be a great answer then.
A year ago, when I finally decided to share my whole weight loss story, that was a really big deal for me. I put up a whole bunch of really unflattering, embarrassing pictures, and I just took a leap of faith that it would all work out well because luckily we've never gotten a negative comment on our blog ever, somehow. Well, we get one today. But,
that's amazing.
I got such an overwhelming response from women and guys all over the world that kind of applauded me for being honest, and that just every time I look back, all those comments and everything that I wrote, it kind of makes me feel good that I got into this in the first place. So that's the post that really sticks out to me.
Well, I mean, like I was saying before, if I had to pick a post or at least an activity, I would definitely say a road trip. And I'm repeating myself. But
Well, I should mention the road trip. A lot of the nights we were on the road in the hotel room, we would sit down and compile the pictures and the writing. And Joe did do a lot of the writing for those posts. I kind of counted on him for that end of it. So
that's probably I definitely enjoyed that the most. And it's the kind of thing that would be fine if you suggested that kind of activity anytime. And just enjoyed the writing process because I do write. I mean, when I have time to do it, and that really got me to write and to enjoy it again.
So it sounds like the blog has really brought you guys together and through that depression you were expressing. So it sounds like all fluffy and great, but has it brought any tension between you guys?
Well, yeah, Project Newlyweds has certainly not been all sunshine and roses. There's been nights where Joe's had a class, or I've been teaching a class. I'll come home at 9:30. I'll be so tired.
This night right here.
Oh, taffy.
We made homemade taffy, and it was so awful. I don't know if anybody has tried it. We've done a lot of candy making activities with Project Newlyweds, but this one, I had a terrible day. I don't think I got home until 7. I think I barely ate anything, and then she's like, oh, it'll take a half hour, 45 minutes, and I was like, okay, at least an hour, because I usually have to add a little bit of time. But so we started out, and it was going okay, it was going fine, and then you have to hand pull taffy, right?
Yeah, but it was the consistency of tar.
Yeah, the consistency wasn't right. It was a little too sticky and a little bit too thin, so we had to just pull, and it never came together. It tasted awful. It dirtied up the entire kitchen. It looked like someone got murdered in there. Because it's blood red, and definitely been some tension, but with usually the way it works out with marriage and things like that, the next day everything usually looks a little bit sunnier.
Yeah, and whenever the activity is over, we're always really glad that we did it.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Well, like on the way here, we were kind of nervous about this, and I was like, Joe, just look at it. It's a new activity for today. We do new stuff every day.
Before noon today.
Yeah. Good.
So the project maybe was it's a year-long thing. So what comes next?
That's a good question. Yeah, Project Newlyweds will end December 19th on our 1-year wedding anniversary, and I've really been thinking a lot lately about what's going to happen after that. Joe's in law school, he's going to be moving into the real world, and I'm kind of reevaluating how much we want to put out there, how personal we want to keep it. But at this point, I really don't know what's going to come.
We talk probably every couple weeks about how much we like the way the Project Newlyweds has changed our outlook on trying new things. It's always the attitude for us now. It's just like, why not? Why not go try this? Why not go try that? So we may not have that strict structure of doing a new thing every day. Yeah. We're not going to force it when I get home at 8 or 9. We just have to do an activity. But instead of sitting in front of the TV or just doing nothing, we'll go out and do something new. If we got something that I might not have tried, or Betsy might not have tried before the project.
I think it's just going to level out, go back to the way it was at the beginning. We'll blog about what we want, when we want, and maybe we'll go through another phase that I see yet too.
Yeah, who knows?
Do you know what your readership is right now? Do you check your analytics at all? Or?
Yeah, we get between 20 and 30,000 hits a month.
Wow, that's great.
The peak, it was 40 for the.
Yeah, sometimes when you really think about it, and I will go to a stat counter and I'll look at exactly where the people are coming from. I see the people in prison reading our blogs, and the more I and people write about it in our neighborhood, the more I look into that side, it freaks me out even more. The first time I did that, I was like, Joe, I got a good blog, and I can't do this. I know there's someone in Virginia spent 18 hours on our blog yesterday.
What? Really?
So I think the less you think about that stuff, the better. I've never. Yes, it's great to get paid to blog, but I really don't get paid very much at all, and it was never for the money. I don't really try to promote the blog. I just let people find it.
Well, how do you go from friends and family to 20 to 30,000 hits a month?
Well,
that's quite a leap.
I started to put it on Twitter. I actually, my coworkers didn't know about it. Not all of our friends knew about it. We kind of selectively told people because you never know how people are going to react, and it's weird to know that your boss is seeing what you did last night. But at a certain point when I saw that it was moving up, I was commenting on a lot of people's blogs. That's how I really grew some readership, is connecting with people online. But yeah, Twitter's been a big thing. I don't know, it's just kind of gradually happened over the past 4 years, but I don't know.
You didn't just get there this year, right? I mean, that's the building.
No, yeah, we'll be our 4-year blog anniversaries.
So Project Newlyweds, is that its own .com, or was that the same from your previous?
It's always
JoeandBetsy.com.
Right. So yes.
The header.
Okay. Yeah. So you had all of your blog rank from all of your previous projects, and then I'm thinking you're probably doing projects that people are searching for how to do, like how to make taffy or stuff like that.
Homemade gum. How do you make homemade gum? Certainly our content has been so random and weird that a lot of people have found us that way. But.
Yeah, that's cool.
This question is for you, Joe. How have you kind of found your role in how the blog works? If Betsy's the one that's really writing most of the content, how have you settled into that?
I'm glad you asked that. Yeah, go for it.
Well, like I was saying before, I wasn't always comfortable just getting my picture taken all the time. And, somebody's got to be behind the camera and somebody's got to be in front of the camera. So, probably number one role is the model for just about everything that we do. And, I don't contribute much to the writing. That's really Betsy's thing. And a lot of it is ideas. I'll throw out ideas, especially now with the project. Let's do this. Let's go try this out. So it's a combination of just standing there and holding something and coming up with some good ideas for the project.
And he's a good husband. It'll be nice to make his wife happy. Despite how ridiculous it makes him feel or look. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
billing.
Top billing.
I know, I've read many times,
It's
I was
threatening.
like, it should just be like BetsyandTheBurgh.com. And
I would say, well, we use some real shit there, so.
no, yeah, it's definitely, you know, the two of us.
Why did you pick Joe and Betsy at the beginning?
I don't know. We had an email address that was like joeandbetsy7@verizon.net. That was, you know, I don't know. It just sounds better, I think. I don't know. Yeah.
Do people ever contact you for advice, like marital advice or relationship advice?
Not really, but I have gotten a lot of emails in the past year that's like, you really inspire me. You know, my boyfriend would never do this, and that kind of
Somebody's
things.
doing the project, right?
Yeah, there is another blogger, a set of bloggers that have kind of started Project Newlyweds recently. They're taking their picture every month, and I can't think of their name right now, but they tweeted me and it was like, you know, imitation's the sincerest form of flattery, right? And you know, I think it's great that they're doing that, but I think more than people looking to us for advice, they're just kind of getting inspired by us. I think, yeah, every newlywed couple should have to go through something like this.
I have another question from the chat room. So how do you come up with ideas for projects?
Before Project Newlywed started, I started a list. And
How
I
big
told-
was your list?
My list was like, you know, close to 200 ideas.
I had 30.
The original idea was to make it as 50-50 as possible, but in reality, I've just kind of been going through that list. But
Spontaneous activities happen a lot, too.
yeah, Joe will find like, there was one picture like, he'll say there's going to be a free organ concert at Heinz Chapel this Sunday. Let's
Yeah,
do that.
we're walking down the strip yesterday, and we walked by it 50 times, there's this Polish deli. And so we hopped in there and, you know, checked it out, and I really like smoked meat steaks. So I got one. And so that, you know, stuff like that. Sometimes it's just spontaneous, you know, if we get lucky.
At this point, we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel because we're reaching the end here, and our idea list is certainly dwindling. So we're trying to really take advantage of things going on in the city.
But our list, I mean, like Betsy said, we haven't done everything that's on our list. You know, I had a lot of things that a little more involved that kind of got lost in the shuffle over the summer. So, you know, going forward, we're
we
probably
started a life list
yeah.
for things that we can do when we have more time and money. And, yeah.
You ever asked for ideas from your readers on what to do?
Yeah, I've put it out there, and some people have offered some ideas. Some, like, Giant Eagle contacted us and said, come take one of our cooking classes at the New Robinson Market District, so we did that. So, yeah, we're definitely always open to people giving us ideas.
What's today's event? PodCamp?
Yeah, you've seen it.
Yeah. And
We haven't got a presentation together, I don't think about it.
yeah, this is very weird for us, but the past 2 weeks that we've had the puppy, it's also been quite a challenge.
Yeah.
I've been thinking, why do we do this to ourselves, you know?
You have 2 cats and a puppy now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a zoo
Yeah.
at our house. But it's, you know, it's been great, and never would have happened probably if it wasn't for this.
We would have gotten a dog.
I don't know.
Begging for a dog for years, so don't believe that.